High within the frozen mountains of Black Hollow Ridge, old legends spoke about an abandoned gold mine sealed for nearly 50 years. According to local stories, the tunnels once produced enormous amounts of gold before a mysterious disaster forced every worker to flee underground forever. Nobody truly knew what happened inside the mine. Some villagers claimed the tunnels collapsed after an explosion. Others believed something far worse awakened beneath the mountain. For decades, nobody dared returning there, until treasure hunter Marcus Hale arrived. Marcus spent years searching forgotten maps, mining records, and old newspapers looking for lost gold hidden beneath abandoned mines across the country. Most people considered him obsessed, but Marcus believed the Black Hollow mine still contained untouched treasure worth millions. One stormy evening, he gathered a small team of miners and explorers inside a mountain tavern near the abandoned ridge. "There's enough gold in that mine to make us rich for life," Marcus said confidently while spreading ancient mining maps across the table. Some workers hesitated immediately. The oldest miner in the tavern slowly shook his head. "You should leave that mountain alone," he warned quietly. "The mine is cursed." Marcus laughed. "Cursed by what?" "Ghost stories." The old miner's face became serious. "My father worked there before the collapse," he whispered. "He heard things underground no human should ever hear." But greed overcame fear. The expedition began the next morning. Heavy snow covered the mountain paths while freezing wind howled across the cliffs surrounding Black Hollow Ridge. After hours climbing through dangerous terrain, Marcus and his team finally discovered the abandoned mine entrance hidden behind collapsed wooden structures and rusted rails. The place looked frozen in time. Broken mining carts remained scattered outside the tunnels, while old warning signs hung crookedly beside the entrance. "Danger, shaft closed." Marcus ignored them. The team entered the mine slowly using lanterns and flashlights. Inside, endless tunnels stretched deep beneath the mountain. Dust covered old equipment while water dripped constantly from cracked stone ceilings. At first, everything seemed abandoned. Silent. Empty. Then one miner stopped walking. "Did you hear that?" Everyone froze. Somewhere far below the tunnels, faint knocking sounds echoed through the darkness. 3 knocks. Then silence. Moments later, the knocking returned. Closer this time. Marcus forced a nervous smile. Probably old pipes. But deep inside the mine, something moved beneath the mountain, and it had heard them enter. The deeper Marcus and his team traveled into the abandoned mine beneath Black Hollow Ridge, the colder the tunnels became. Water dripped steadily from the ceilings while old wooden support beams creaked loudly around them. Rusted mining tracks disappeared into endless darkness ahead, swallowed by shadows beyond the reach of their lanterns. Nobody spoke much anymore. The strange knocking sounds continued echoing through the mine every few minutes. Always distant. Always moving. One miner, named Carter, nervously checked the ancient map again. "These tunnels go far deeper than official records show," he whispered. Marcus smiled greedily. "That means nobody reached the lower gold veins." Hours later, the team discovered something shocking. An old mining camp hidden underground. Dust-covered beds, broken lanterns, and untouched tools remained exactly where workers left them decades earlier. Half-eaten food still rested beside collapsed tables, as if everyone had fled suddenly in the middle of their shift. But what terrified the team most were the walls. Deep claw marks covered the stone. Not human. One worker quietly crossed himself. "This place isn't normal." Marcus ignored the fears spreading through the group and ordered everyone deeper into the tunnels. Soon the air itself began changing. The miners noticed a strange smell rising from below, something rotten mixed with smoke and wet earth. Then the lights started flickering. One lantern suddenly exploded. Darkness swallowed part of the tunnel instantly. From somewhere deep ahead came a distant scream. Everyone froze. The scream sounded human, but impossible. No one else should have been inside the mine. "Marcus," Carter whispered nervously. "We need to leave." Before Marcus could answer, another sound echoed through the tunnel. Heavy footsteps. Slow. Dragging. Moving somewhere beyond the darkness ahead. The team raised their lights toward the sound. Nothing appeared. Then one of the miners suddenly disappeared. A violent scream echoed through the tunnel as his lantern rolled across the ground alone. The remaining workers panicked instantly. "Run!" The team rushed backward through the mine, while strange growls echoed from the darkness behind them. Shadows moved quickly between the tunnels just beyond the lantern light. But Marcus refused leaving. "We're close to the gold," he shouted desperately. Then the tunnel walls began shaking violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. And deep beneath Black Hollow Mine, something enormous roared underground. Panic spread through the abandoned mine as Marcus and the surviving workers ran deeper beneath Black Hollow Ridge, searching desperately for another exit. Behind them, distant growls echoed through the tunnels while shadows moved between the darkness faster than humanly possible. Nobody knew what was hunting them. The old mine trembled constantly around them. Ancient support beams cracked loudly while rocks fell from the ceiling onto the rusted mining tracks below. Then Carter noticed something strange carved into the tunnel walls. Warning symbols. Hundreds of them. Some showed miners kneeling before a giant black creature hidden beneath the mountain. Others depicted tunnels collapsing while workers fled in terror carrying gold. At the center of every carving appeared the same symbol. A giant eye. What if the old miners sealed something down here? Carter whispered. Marcus refused listening. Driven by greed, he continued following the map deeper underground despite the fears spreading through the team. Finally, after hours inside the collapsing tunnels, the group reached a gigantic underground chamber hidden far below the mountain. And everyone stopped in shock. The lost gold chamber. Mountains of untouched gold covered the cavern floor. Old mining carts overflowed with gold bars and raw or untouched for decades. Giant crystal formations reflected the lantern light across underground rivers flowing through the chamber. The treasure was real. Marcus stared at the gold with madness in his eyes. "We're rich." Several miners immediately began filling bags with treasure despite the danger surrounding them. But Carter noticed something terrifying. Skeletons. Dozens of them. Old miners still wearing rusted helmets lay scattered around the chamber floor. None appeared crushed by collapsing tunnels. Most looked as if they died trying to escape. Then the lantern lights flickered again, and the chamber became completely silent. No dripping water. No falling rocks. Nothing. Slowly, a massive shape emerged from the darkness beyond the gold. At first it looked almost human. Then it moved closer. The creature towered above the miners with black skin covered in ash and glowing cracks like burning coal beneath its body. Its eyes glowed deep red while enormous claws scraped against the stone floor. The monster guarding the mine. One terrified miner dropped his lantern. The creature roared violently. The sound shook the entire mountain. Chaos exploded instantly. Miners screamed and ran while the beast charged through the chamber, smashing mining carts and tearing through stone pillars. Gold scattered across the floor as the ancient creature hunted anyone carrying treasure. Marcus refused abandoning the gold. Even as the chamber collapsed around him, he continued stuffing bags with treasure desperately. Then the monster stopped directly in front of him and smiled. The creature guarding the lost gold chamber moved slowly through the collapsing cavern while terrified miners fled between falling rocks and shattered mining carts. Its glowing red eyes illuminated the darkness beneath Black Hollow Ridge like burning fire. Marcus stood frozen beside mountains of gold, unable to move. The beast towered over him. Black smoke escaped from cracks across its body, while its enormous claws scraped sparks across the stone floor. Still, Marcus clutched bags filled with gold tightly against his chest. Greed blinded him completely. Carter screamed toward him, "Leave the gold and run." But Marcus refused. The creature suddenly grabbed one of the gold bags from the ground and crushed it effortlessly in its claws. Gold bars bent like soft metal before falling into the underground river below. Then the beast roared again. The entire chamber shook violently. Huge sections of the ceiling collapsed around the miners while underground rivers overflowed through the tunnels. Ancient support beams snapped apart one by one. The mountain itself was collapsing. Carter grabbed two surviving workers and ran toward an emergency tunnel leading upward through the mine. Behind them, terrified screams echoed through the cavern as the monster hunted anyone still carrying treasure. Marcus finally tried escaping, but the gold slowed him down. As he reached the tunnel entrance, the ground beneath him cracked apart suddenly. Bags of treasure spilled across the stone, while Marcus barely avoided falling into the underground river below. The creature approached slowly through the dust. For the first time, Marcus understood the horrifying truth. The old miners had never abandoned the mine because of a collapse. They had been trapped underground with the monster, and the creature protected the gold. Marcus desperately abandoned the treasure and climbed toward the escape tunnel. But the beast was already beside him. Its giant claw wrapped around Marcus instantly. The treasure hunter screamed while the creature dragged him back into the darkness of the collapsing chamber. Nobody could save him. Carter and the surviving miners continued running upward through narrow tunnels while explosions echoed beneath the mountain behind them. Water flooded parts of the mine. Smoke filled the air. The entire underground system was dying. Then Carter noticed daylight ahead. The exit. The survivors rushed toward freedom while the ground shook violently beneath their feet. But just before escaping, Carter heard something impossible echoing from the darkness below. Marcus screaming for help, still alive, and something else laughing beside him deep beneath the mountain. The survivors barely escaped the abandoned mine moments before the mountainside exploded beneath Black Hollow Ridge. Massive rocks collapsed across the entrance while clouds of dust and smoke rose into the freezing night sky. Trees shook violently as part of the mountain itself caved inward, sealing the underground tunnels forever. Carter collapsed into the snow, breathing heavily. Behind him, the mine disappeared beneath thousands of tons of stone. The nightmare was over, or so they believed. Days later, rescue teams searched the mountain hoping to recover Marcus and the missing workers. But no bodies were ever found beneath the collapse. Only broken mining tools and strange claw marks burned into the rocks near the sealed entrance. The official report blamed an underground gas explosion for the disaster. Nobody believed Carter's story about the creature beneath the mine, especially when he described the glowing eyes, the burning skin, and the underground chamber filled with gold. But Carter knew the truth. Something ancient still lived beneath Black Hollow Ridge. Weeks later, Carter visited the old tavern where the expedition first began. The elderly miner who warned them sat quietly beside the fire waiting for him. "You saw it, didn't you?" the old man asked softly. Carter nodded silently. The old miner stared into the flames for several seconds before speaking again. "My father survived the first collapse 50 years ago," he whispered. "He told me the mountain was never cursed because of the gold." Carter looked at him carefully. "Then why?" The old man's face darkened. "Because the miners dug too deep. According to old legends, something ancient slept beneath the mountain long before humans discovered gold there. The first miners accidentally awakened it while blasting tunnels deep underground. At first, workers disappeared one by one. Then entire groups vanished during night shifts. The survivors eventually sealed the tunnels, hoping to trap the creature forever. But greed always brought people back. Always. Months later, strange stories began spreading through nearby villages once again. People heard knocking sounds echoing beneath the mountains at night. 3 knocks, then silence. Hunters crossing the forests near Black Hollow Ridge reported seeing glowing red eyes watching from abandoned mine shafts hidden between the rocks. Some even claimed they heard human screams deep underground calling for help. Marcus's voice, still trapped somewhere beneath the mountain. To this day, nobody dares searching for the lost gold chamber again. Yet treasure hunters continue arriving every year, hoping the stories are only legends. Most never return. And during cold nights in the mountains, locals still say the creature beneath Black Hollow Mine waits patiently in the darkness, guarding its cursed gold forever.